Hello, welcome to my talk. My name is Joseph Mbele. I am a Tanzanian. I teach at St. Olaf College in Northfield, Minnesota. I've been here in the English department since 1991. I teach literature from around the world, as well as folklore from around the world. Before I came here, I used to teach at the University of Dar es Salaam in Tanzania. That's my country. I was there in the literature department from 1976. Outside of teaching, I'm a cultural consultant. I work especially with Africans and Americans. That's because these are the people I know the most. As an African, definitely, I know about the African ways very much. I was raised, in Africa, in Tanzania. I have done a lot of reading. I teach African literature and things like that. I have interacted with Africans back in Africa and here in the USA for many, many years. Several decades, in fact. So I am knowledgeable about the African ways. And my research in folklore has focused on African folklore. So that helps me to really understand the dynamics, the realities of the African value system, African life, African thinking. My experience with Americans is equally extensive. Yes. I studied in the University of Wisconsin, Madison. I don't know if I should say in or at. Slip of the tongue, call it slip of the tongue. I studied at the University of Wisconsin, Madison for almost 6 years in the graduate school. And then, that was 1980 to 86. And then I've been teaching here at St. Olaf College in Minnesota from 1991 to now, 2025. That's about 34 years. Plenty of time interacting with Americans and getting to know them. Yeah, especially because I teach, so I interact with students every day. I interact with the neighbors and parents of the students, and it's been quite an exposure. So my consulting work focuses on Africans and Americans, trying to help them to navigate cultural differences. And today I would like to focus on a topic that has become very close to my heart. Business between Africans and Americans, or rather the cultural dimension of business between Africans and Americans. More particularly, I would like to address, or focus on the wave of African Americans that are going to Africa. And many of them are talking about starting, businesses over there. And the problem, I think, is that they just think, you can go there and start a business, run it. Maybe you have some experience of running business here in the USA, and therefore you can just go do the same in Africa. And I would like to say, that's a serious mistake. That assumption is very, very mistaken. You could be a very adept business person, very successful business person here in the USA, and then you take your business to Africa, and you could be in very serious trouble in many ways. And the fundamental issue is that business is actually part of the culture in which it is taking place. Yes. And I mentioned this in this book here. There's a chapter titled Culture and Business Between Africans and Americans. The book is Chickens in the Bus, More Thoughts on Cultural Differences. I mentioned this point specifically, that business is part of a culture. And if you understand the dynamics of a business, or the dynamics of business in a particular culture, you will have understood a lot about the culture. You cannot isolate business from the culture. You cannot take, the ways of doing business, in one culture and hope that they will work in another culture. It doesn't work that way. I said such a thing here, but now I've done a lot of research in the 2 years or so since I published this book, and I've learned much more about what this means. If you don't know the culture in Africa, if you're an American and you are setting up your business in Africa, you could make costly mistakes, very costly mistakes. That's the kind of message I'm conveying these days. And I'm learning a lot about how that works. Some of these mistakes could be not necessarily directly connected with losing money, but it could be, tarnishing your reputation. Yes, it could be failing to communicate, failing to advertise your product, failing to talk and relate with the people that you are trying to do business with, creating misunderstandings, and therefore impacting the business negatively. So you really need to know the culture, and these are things that might not obviously appear to be related to the business that you are trying to do. But once you know the culture, once you take care of the cultural realities, and you embrace them, or you understand them, you know how to navigate them, you will find that your business will be more secure and more efficient. And that's where I see a direct connection between the general things I say in a book like this, or rather in this book, Africans and Americans Embracing Cultural Differences. I talk about many things, just defining the culture, discussing the culture and the differences. Conversation, things like gender issues, things like gifts, things like approaches to time management, and so on and so on. Greetings. Once you grasp all this, and you're trying to establish a business in a culture, you will find it works well. The business works well. It can avoid pitfalls. You can avoid the financial losses. you can build a reputation and sustain a reputation, which will then attract clients, collaborators, customers, and that's very important. That's very important. Being acceptable, fitting in, the system around you, and being able to operate seamlessly. Those are assets, and you have to take care of them. So that is the message I have for today. A very short message that culture and business are inseparable. You don't just pack your bags, take your business abroad, and hope it will work. The same applies for the Africans who want to do business with Americans. Whether it's remote, whether it's in person, because even if you are having conversations or meetings remotely, a lot of the things that I talk about here apply. The person in the other part of the world has different concepts of communication. They communicate differently. They have different understandings of time and deadlines and things like that. Communication, for example, is very crucial, and I talk about it here. If you are making a request, you're a business owner, you're trying to communicate with your business partner. Say you're African, you're communicating with your American partner. You are in Mombasa, Kenya. Your partner is in Chicago. Then you are talking about when a certain product will be delivered, or you're asking questions and receiving answers. The way Americans respond to your questions, the way Africans respond to questions. All of these have cultural connections, and you need to know. It could jeopardize your business relationships. It could facilitate business relationships. So it really pays to invest in cultural education. I should say it's actually essential. If you are looking to succeed, then you cannot ignore the cultural dimension. I have said, I think in another video, that one of the things I've learned as a cultural consultant is that any relationship involving people of different cultures requires cultural education. You need to begin to study each other's culture the moment you start a relationship. It could be personal, it could be business, it could be diplomatic, it could be anything. As long as you are going to deal with somebody of another culture, in whatever capacity, in whatever field, you need to begin to study each other's culture. There's a video, one of my videos, in which I've made this point. The more I study this issue, the more I'm convinced that there are lots and lots of things to learn. I have to say, I have spent some time, years actually, trying to create resources for people who are interested in learning. Testimonies of readers of this book show clearly that they may have lived, say, in Africa for years, not knowing, how the culture works, and being confused and being irritated and being frustrated. But then they read this book, and then they come out confessing that, they wish they had read this book earlier. They think about, regretfully, the time they've lost, the hardship they have suffered, the puzzlement, the frustrations. So I'm convinced that my resources are actually working for people. And then I've come up with this one. The first one was published 2005, and this one, Chickens in the Bus, I published it in 2021. I've also created a course, an online course, and the few people who have taken the course, who have bought the course, have been coming out with testimonies about how valuable the course is. And I'm talking about Americans, African Americans, who have gone to live in Africa. How grateful they are that they were able to take this course, and it's mostly videos and text. And then they claim, rather they testify that the course has opened their eyes and made things easy for them. I'm really very pleased, and it's these people who are giving me, the energy, the zeal to speak the way I'm speaking. Now, with these testimonies, and you can see, below this video, some links. You can follow this information. You can follow this information up. The resources don't cost much at all. It's very little money, but you end up saving a lot of money. You end up, not suffering, unnecessarily. You end up saving yourself a lot of hardship, a lot of frustration and unhappiness. I'm very passionate about this because I know it works, because I know my research, and it's an ongoing project, is going to help even more people. I intend to reach out to companies that are seeking to invest in Africa, that are already doing business in Africa. That's my next project. I'm actually going to reach out to these companies here in the USA, starting with Minnesota, because I know I have something to offer. And so keep following me on this channel. I'm not going to be tired, of speaking this way. I've become very excited. I'm all fired up, and I do want to help people. And the testimony of those people who have used my resources, gives me a lot of enthusiasm for what I'm doing. I should stop here for today, and I wish you all the best. Check beneath this video and follow the links. If you are interested in saving yourself a lot of trouble, if you are interested in operating smoothly, in your business and other relationships with Africans or with Americans, you are free to go, try out these resources. I look forward to keeping in touch, and that's it for today. Have a nice day.